all. I'm Karen Morgan, and this is the Purple Bike Podcast. Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the year 2001. In 2001, I was living in Maine with my husband and two very small children. We started off the year very fun in January when my husband ruptured his quadriceps and had to have surgery. So I had a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old and a husband who couldn't walk. And it snowed so much that year that the snow came all the way to the windows. I ended up having to give the dog away because that poor thing was so far down the list of other beings that I needed to keep alive, he was not going to make it in my house. Some fun things that happened in 2001, Xbox and Xbox consoles came out, much to the happiness of gamers everywhere. Apple came out with iTunes and iPods, which were awesome, but it made me look really silly when I went to the gym with my cassette tape Walkman. And in 2001, we also got ugly dolls. I was not a big doll person growing up, so this was very fun, and I bought an ugly doll for everyone in our family. So let's talk about the music of 2001. I know I was busy with babies, but I swear I don't even remember the number one song, which is by Lifehouse called Hanging by a Moment. The songs that I do remember from 2001 were by Train, Uncle Cracker, Three Doors Down, and Christina Aguilera and Pink with a redo of Lady Marmalade. So for television shows in 2001, I was definitely watching some kids shows. We loved Oswald. Oswald was an animated show about a very sweet octopus who has a bowler hat, and he has a pet dog named Weenie. He had friends that were like a penguin named Henry and a daisy named Daisy. Oswald was voiced by Fred Savage, and Lorraine Newman from Saturday Night Live was the voice of Madame Butterfly. The bigger hit in my house for kids shows, particularly with my youngest son who would be arriving in the next year, was Bob the Builder. Can we fix it? Yes, we can. Bob the Builder was created in England by Keith Chapman in 1998, but it didn't come over to the U.S. until 2001. Bob the Builder, if you haven't seen it, was a stop-motion animated show about a building contractor named Bob and his colleague named Wendy and a bunch of talking construction equipment and a really scary maniacal scarecrow. The American version of Bob the Builder was voiced by Bill Dufresne, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but he lived right here in Maine, and he was such a very nice man, and he is missed by many people.
Can we build it? Yeah! Can we fix it? Yeah! Bob the Builder.
Other shows that were definitely not kid shows were Trailer Park Boys that debuted in 2001. Trailer Park Boys is a Canadian comedy, like a mockumentary series created by Mike Clattenburg. It's about the Sunnyvale Trailer Park in Nova Scotia. It's very funny. It ran for 7 seasons and has some very colorful characters. In 2001, we also got to see 24 for the first time. Kiefer Sutherland played Agent Jack Bauer, and the show covered exactly 24 hours in a day while Agent Jack Bauer was fighting terrorism. It was really fun to watch. I know friends that actually did the actual 24 hours in 24 hours, which seemed like a lot. But there were timestamps for each show to tell you which hour it was. There were 9 seasons altogether. We watched the first couple of one, and then we sort of became exhausted. My favorite TV series that debuted in 2001 was 6 Feet Under, which was created and produced by Alan Ball and lasted for 5 seasons. I loved this show. It was about a family that ran a funeral home in Los Angeles, and the writing was really great. 6 Feet Under won 9 Emmy Awards, 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards, 3 Golden Globes, and a Peabody Award. And it has what I think is one of the best finales of a TV series I've ever seen. The movies in 2001 were very fun. Number 1 at the box office that year was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or if you're here in the United States, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This was the very first film of the very successful film series based on the very successful book series by J.K. Rowling. The first installment of the series was directed by Chris Columbus, and that followed Harry Potter's first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry after he discovers that he's a famous wizard and he starts his education. Harry Potter became the highest grossing film of 2001 and the second highest grossing film of all time at that time. The big Oscar winner of 2001 was A Beautiful Mind, starring Russell Crowe. It won 4 Oscars for Best Film, Best Director for Ron Howard, Best Actress for Jennifer Connelly, and Best Adapted Screenplay. A Beautiful Mind was based on the true story of mathematician John Nash, who was a Nobel laureate in economics and an Abel Prize winner. The movie was inspired by the best-selling book, which was also nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. Another really big movie that we saw in 2001 was Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. This was the first of 3 films that was directed by Peter Jackson, based on the book series by J.R.R. Tolkien. The Fellowship of the Ring was in 2001. It was followed by The Two Towers in 2002 and The Return of the King in 2003. This, if you don't know, was a story about Frodo Baggin, who was a hobbit living in Middle-earth who goes on a quest to destroy a ring, and there's all sorts of other great characters. They shot all 3 films at the same time in Peter Jackson's native New Zealand. This film series is still considered one of the greatest film series ever made. It won 17 Academy Awards altogether. I liked The Lord of the Rings, but I'm still a little bit more of a Star Wars nerd. In 2001, we also saw Shrek for the first time. Shrek was an ogre voiced by Mike Myers. Chris Farley was originally cast as the voice for Shrek, but when Chris Farley passed away, Mike Myers stepped in and voiced him in a Scottish accent. Shrek is one of those movies that is as much fun for parents to watch as for the kids to see. In the story, Shrek is an ogre who lives in a swamp, and all of a sudden all these fairy tale creatures start to come in, and he finds out that they've been banished by Lord Farquaad because he wanted to be king and he was trying to get them out of his kingdom. Now Shrek makes a deal with Farquaad to get the swamp back, but he has to go rescue Princess Fiona, voiced by Cameron Diaz. Eddie Murphy is the voice of Donkey, who helps Shrek go on his quest and find the princess. And there's a little bit of a twist at the end, but everybody lives happily ever after. There ended up being 4 Shrek films in all. Shrek came out 2001, Shrek 2 in 2004, Shrek the Third in 2007, and Shrek Forever in 2010. Plus, there was also a Puss in Boots spinoff in 2011. That's a lot of Shreks. We had a couple of sequel movies in 2001. We had Jurassic Park 3, which was about more people running from more dinosaurs. We had Hannibal, which was a sequel to Silence of the Lambs, with Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter again. But this time we had Julianne Moore, Gary Oldman, and Ray Liotta. This was the movie where Hannibal Lecter eats a guy's brains while he's still alive. Yum! A few more movies on a more lighter note. Bridget Jones' Diary, which I loved, with Renee Zellweger, Hugh Grant, and Colin Firth. We also had The Wedding Planner with Jennifer Lopez Lopez and Matthew McConaughey. We had Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon, with my favorite character in that movie, Jennifer Coolidge. 2001 also brought us The Princess Diaries, that was directed by Gary Marshall and starring Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. I loved Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. Now, I did not play this video game, and I really didn't even know what it was, but I loved this movie. A couple of funny movies from 2001. We had Zoolander with Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, and Will Ferrell. I had a younger person recently tell me that they really weren't aware that the song from Frankie Goes to Hollywood called Relax was a real song. They just thought it was made for Zoolander, and I felt really old. There was a movie in 2001 called Rat Race. If you haven't seen it, it's very funny. It has John Cleese, Rowan Atkinson, John Lovitz, and just a big cast of very funny people that are trying to do this race from Las Vegas, and people are betting on them. It's just a really funny movie. It's super lighthearted, and it's a fun thing to do on a Sunday afternoon. Now we're getting to my two favorite movies of 2001. The first one was Ocean's 11. This was the first installment of the Ocean's franchise. It was directed by Steven Soderbergh. Now, it was a remake of the 1960 film that had Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., all the Rat Pack guys. But the current version had George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Don Cheadle, Andy Garcia, the wonderful Bernie Mac, and even Julia Roberts. It's just a really, really fun heist movie with a lot of twists at the end, and there were other Ocean's movies that came along after it. But my top favorite movie of 2001, probably because I had kids, was Monsters Incorporated. That was a Pixar film that was distributed by Disney. It had the voices of John Goodman, Billy Crystal, Steve Buscemi, and the story was about these two guys who are monsters who are friends, and they work at Monsters Incorporated. That was a power company that generated power by scaring human children. They would collect the screams in these like power tanks, and that's how they powered their city. Now, all the monsters that lived in Monster World believed that children were toxic. And so when a child sneaks into the factory, Sully and Mike, that are Billy Crystal and John Goodman, they have to get this little child home before it's too late, and then they realize that children really aren't toxic after all. Monsters, Inc. won the Oscar for Best Original Song, which was composed by Randy Newman. It was called If I Didn't Have You. Now, this was Newman's first Oscar. He was nominated 15 times in the Best Score and Best Song categories, but had never won until this one. So can we talk about Randy Newman and what a cool guy he is? If you don't already know, Randy Newman is a singer, songwriter, arranger, and composer. His best known songs as a recording artist are Short People, I Love LA, and You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story. He also wrote some other songs that you may know. Mama Told Me Not to Come from 1966, I Think It's Gonna Rain Today, and You Can Leave Your Hat On, that was sort of perfected by Joe Cocker. Randy Newman started composing songs at the age of 17. Now, since the 80s, he's worked mostly as a film composer. He has scored 9 Disney Pixar films, including all of the Toy Story films, A Bug's Life, the Monsters, Inc. films, the first and the third Cars films, as well as other Disney films like The Princess and the Frog. And he has other movies like Ragtime, The Natural, Awakenings, Pleasantville, Meet the Parents, Seabiscuit, and Marriage Story. Just an amazing career as a film composer. Randy Newman has received 22 Academy Award nominations in the Best Original Score and Best Original Song categories, and he's won twice. He's received a total of 92 nominations in various music categories. He's also won 3 Emmys, 3 Grammys, the Governor's Award, and he was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2002 and into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013. I first became aware of Randy Newman back in 1977 when his song Short People came on the radio. My dad loved this song, and I have so many fond memories of just laughing when this song came on the radio. So thanks, Randy Newman. You have made our world a better place with all of your amazing music. So that was the year 2001. We were super busy with very small children, so most of it, I have to admit, y'all, was just a big old blur. But everybody's still here, so we must have done something right. Join me next time when we talk about the year 2002. When robot vacuum cleaners came out, Dr. Phil started helping everybody. Somebody had a big fat Greek wedding, and we added another member to our family. Thanks for listening, everybody. Y'all have a great day.